All right, so are those fissures within NASA widening? The chasm, is it widening as well? We want to hear from our panelists today, as also we embark on other stories as well. And we want to give them an opportunity to also weigh in on what Wetang'ula has just said. We have that person that can actually talk and is fitly also in the panel today to share about Wetang'ula's sentiment. This is none other than also the deputy leader of Ford Kenya, that is Dr. Boni Khalwale. We do have with us this morning as well Dr. Otiende Omollo, who is a member of parliament from Rarieda. Also we have with us Senator Kembi Gitura from Murang'a, the former senator of Murang'a. We do have with us as well Kimani Wamatangi, who is a senator from Kiambu. Eagerly waiting for Isaac Mwaura to join us this morning as well, who is a nominated senator. Let's just go right into it. And good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good to see you, especially Dr. Otiende Omollo. You've been missing in action, right?
Yes, indeed.
So we want to hear from you. But let's begin with Boni Khalwale. He's pointing at you to start with that particular discussion about NASA. But he's the person who should tell us what is really happening, or what is, his leader in Ford Kenya really saying. So is this an unconfidence that NASA will actually hold going to 2022? Or you think this particular statement is really coming from the left side?
I think our party leader could not have been clearer. And personally, as his deputy, I support what he has said. But more importantly, I am very pleased because I have a tendency to make quick and hopefully reasonable decisions. I made a decision about NASA long time ago, and I remember hitting headlines, especially in the nation, about my misgivings. This is when I started seeing the telltale signs. Big things happened and have continued to happen in NASA that negate the meaning of a coalition. For example, how we went to the so-called swearing in on 30th of January. We didn't know what was going on. 2, the way people have shared positions in both the Senate and the National Assembly.
Yes.
A coalition does not work like that. 3, when the NASA party leader, NASA coalition leader, chose to go and have a handshake with the president without reference to his colleagues. Again, coalitions are not held like that. And then finally, when they removed Senator Wetang'ula from the position of leader of the minority in the Senate, again, coalitions don't work like that. So it is good that he has made that decision. But going forward, where are we? And where are we going? The position is that in the NASA coalition agreement, the fact that now Ford Kenya has formally withdrawn, it doesn't mean it has collapsed. The coalition demands that 2 or more parties.
So you formally withdrawn?
Yeah, we've withdrawn. That's what he was announcing yesterday. So if another party does the same, that'll be the end of NASA. So we'll see whether ANC and Wiper and ODM will march on.
So what about the formation or the merger of ANC and Ford Kenya? Is also ANC is really part of NASA still?
ANC is equally unhappy, so I would not be surprised if they made a similar.
You are actually holding talks with ANC in regard to merger.
Exactly.
What is the upshot of that?
There is no contradiction in my view, because our talks are not premised on the fact that we should talk only if we are still in NASA. Yeah. And it does also mean that whatever entity we were to come up with would have to be within NASA.
But if now you're actually merging with ANC and your position is that you've withdrawn from NASA, essentially it means then, some of the maybe articles, not really articles of association, but the clauses that we'll be having maybe on a contract or agreement will be also ANC should pull out of NASA as well. That be part of the demand that we'll make? I
can't speak for ANC, but
no,
I can
you're speaking
for
Ford Kenya, yes.
But I can confirm that ANC is equally unhappy with the way the NASA flag bearer has treated the rest of the core principles. They're extremely unhappy. Maybe it is a matter of time, or they have chosen the style of saying, let's not talk about it now. I'm close enough to ANC to know that I'm talking from a position of knowledge. Yeah.
All right, let's see from Dr. Otiende Omollo, we had also ODM having a retreat, maybe to just put their house in order as well. We wonder what are some of the, the agenda that was really on the table as far as ODM is concerned. Is it also planning to pull out of NASA, unbeknownst to these other parties, the ANC and Ford Kenya?
Well, thank you, Debarl. Let me start by expressing my condolences. First, I have just seen that my friend and colleague in the profession, Justice Etiang, collapsed and died. Yes. Let me express my condolences to the family. That is in the Standard? Yes, page 8.
Oh, page 8.
This has been a difficult week because my own sister-in-law also died of cancer, breast cancer, which is now killing a lot of our people. And I think this is something that will need to be looked into. Dr. Khalwale here and other medical doctors will need to tell us why almost every 6 in 10 deaths is out of cancer. It's something that is unbelievable. Having said that, I think the news of my senior brother, Wetang'ula, announcing that they've withdrawn from NASA is not news, because that has been there. Dr. Khalwale here has repeatedly said it, and others, Dr. Simiyu. So it's not news. I do not therefore understand why they would go all the way to Mombasa to announce that news. It is not news. They had long done it. So to the fact that they go to announce it perhaps means that there's a problem. They do not have something substantial to announce. It is not news first because they had done it a long time ago. You remember immediately after the handshake, my brother Wetang'ula came out with guns blazing, and the news at that time was that ANC and Ford Kenya had decided to go their way and they were merging.
Yes.
The news should actually now be how far that merger has gone. I think it must have hit the rocks because since then we have had all sorts of conflicting information. I think the ANC leader has since said they are not pulling out of NASA. The ANC leader has also said they are not going the way Ford Kenya is going. So I think Ford Kenya is in a crisis of association. As you had Senior Wetang'ula saying, that they are putting together their party and, in his words, to see who else they can form government with in 2022. So I think it is a search for partners. The foundation of the so-called withdrawal is false, of course. You know, Debarl, in any marriage, if one party wants out, they will get any reason, including your sleeping position, as that I do not like how you sleep now after staying for so many, so many years, that now they want to pull out. And at the end of the day, if one wants to pull out, then they just pull out. They don't need to have a reason. The 3 reasons, for example, my brother has given are all false. Look at the question of the swearing in.
Yes.
If anybody was to pull out of NAS on account of swearing in, it would be ODM. Because the betrayal was actually by the other parties. They are the ones who did not turn up for the swearing in. It's not the other way around. If one looked at the question of sharing of positions in Parliament, the one thing, and you will note this, is that despite everything, all those who are from the coalition parties, from ANC, from Ford Kenya, from Wiper, from ODM, have maintained the positions. No one has been removed except Senator Wetang'ula. And as we've explained before, that was not on account of NASA issues. That was on account of issues that were peculiar to senators. And they have explained, even Senator Wamatangi and the others have explained here what happened. So that was not a NASA issue. If you come to the handshake, we all know that the handshake was discussed between 2 people, Raila Amolo Odinga and Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, and everyone else came to learn of it later. If that were to be a reason to break up anything, by now the deputy president would have quit from being deputy president because he also didn't know. So all those are facades. But the point is, it is irrelevant. I think what's irrelevant is how we move forward. Secondly, and this is an important point, the point that Obama made yesterday, and a point that we all need to accept, is that whether you support Raila, whether you support Uhuru or you don't, the fact that they had that handshake and the fact that they agreed on a framework which hopefully can solve the issues that keep recurring every year for the last 5 decades is a good thing. It is something that puts us on a pedestal to discuss our differences and move forward. So anybody who has the heart of this country should not start by condemning it. They should start by accepting it, and the focus should be that, therefore, in terms of the team that is focusing on what needs to be done, what is it that they should include there? And that is where the focus is. So for me, I would really not focus on the question of is NASA dead, is it resurrecting, it's irrelevant really, because NASA is there. Anybody who wants to pull out can pull out. Anybody who wants to join perhaps could join. But for now, the focus is what do we get out of this handshake as a country and not at the individual level. That's where my focus is.
But where is the cohesion of other principles within NASA as far as the handshake is concerned? Because it seems all this is just for Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga as well.
Immediately after the handshake, the demand that was placed in a joint statement by Musalia Mudavadi and Wetang'ula, and I agreed with that position at the time, is that now that there's a handshake, and now that we may not have been in the know before, we hope and wish that in the conversation subsequent, we should be included not as individuals, but as persons representing wide interest, so that the handshake is not just individual between two people, but the handshake becomes a national event. And that handshake and the subsequent event should result in meaningful change of the landscape, even if it means minimal amendment of the Constitution. That is where the focus should be, and that's where everyone else will come in. Not just the principles of NASA, but even the Deputy President, even others who have ambitions, even the non-political players who are also stakeholders in this country. That is where they would come in. But you cannot demand that you then fault the situation because you did not have a handshake between 4, 5, or 6 people. A handshake traditionally must involve the leaders. If, as was always accepted, Raila Amolo Odinga is the NASA leader, it must be expected that when it comes to a handshake, he would shake the hand of the other leader of the other coalition. And not all the followers can then come say that, why didn't we also stand behind you and shake hands? But if the issue is just shaking hands, I mean, people are free to shake hands everywhere. I think you've been seeing it. Dr. Boni Khalwale, I'll be inviting you to shake my hand shortly. Could you shake my hand, please? Yes, if there's a problem, is a handshake. We can always shake hands. So that is not the problem.
What was our difference?
Of opinion. So that really is an issue for me.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, let's say from Senator Kembi on this. I know this is not really right up your alley, but of course what is happening within NASA can actually also shape the political dynamics that is happening within Jubilee, also within the political sphere as well. Maybe you can weigh in and tell us.
Well, I don't belong to NASA, so there are many things I will not know about what they are discussing. But I've listened to my colleagues, my friends, Dr. Omollo and Dr. Khalwale, who are staunch members of the coalition parties that form, that coalition. All I can say is that every day is a learning process. For the first time, I have had Dr. Boni Khalwale confess that they had no idea about what was going on about the swearing in. And that's a major confession. Because as we were watching and waiting for the swearing in, we thought that it was a joint effort and that I thought I would see Boni Khalwale there because I know him very well and I expected to see him. But he's made a confession that he had no idea what was going on. Now, the constituent parties are, I'm sure, are still intact. So you're watching the situation. We have heard what Senator Wetang'ula has to say about quitting NASA. So we shall be watching the situation going forward. Because you must remember that all of us are interested in these things, whether you're in NASA or not, whether you're in Jubilee or not. These are parties that are in our country, and they form the opinion that shapes the future of this nation, all of them. So all of us are interested. It's not that we are close to the fact that there is NASA or that it is breaking up, and what the consequences of breaking up in NASA would be. So we are watching that space, but we can continue listening and hearing from what they have to say. On the issue of the handshake, which we've continued to discuss for a very long time, and when I was here last time, a week ago, we talked about it, and it's been a very important move in my view. Not just because President Obama talked about it. We've talked about it a lot ourselves before that. The temperatures in the country have cooled, and we have that team dealing with a nine-point agenda, and like former Prime Minister Raila has kept saying, we must wait and see, because this team of 14 was formed pursuant to the handshake, and they were given that 9-point agenda to deal with. We are hoping and we are waiting very anxiously to see what they are coming up with, because if they propose that there should be some amendments to the Constitution, it will be a very important move. And they will help shape what can be called a national dialogue. National dialogue is important. People must talk, we must talk together, because this is our country.
Yes.
And we might find that the 9-point agenda, when the group of the 14 come out and start telling us what it is that they are deciding, it will make the basis or the foundation of what could then form a national dialogue. And we should not wish it away, because in my view, national dialogue is important. There are things that must be discussed in this country, and we must discuss them, you know, openly. We must want to know why every 5 years, after elections, every 5 years, there is a form of violence or misunderstanding among people who lived together there before, and then after a few months thereafter, they start coexisting again, waiting for the next election. We must want to know why Kenya has become a country of continuous campaigns from election to election, why people must continue to campaign for 5 years after the last election. Therefore, a lot of time, nothing gets done. No, the promises are not fulfilled. These are things that we need to know, because we cannot make politics the centerpiece of our nation. We must move on, and we must think more about the development that can come from the people that we elect, from the president to the members of the county assemblies.
Right. Let's hear from Senator Kimani Wamatangi. Good morning, and good to see you.
Good morning, Debarl, and let me also take the opportunity to say good morning to our viewers, and also thank you, Debarl, for inviting my good friend and old colleague. I mean, in the past session of Parliament, Senator Kembi Gitura.
First, you need to clarify, were you in Moscow? We know we didn't see you last week.
Well, I mean, why don't you let me finish? I mean, why are you jumping the gun? Are you trying to say welcoming Kembi Gitura is less important than what you want to hear?
Okay.
I was just welcoming him, my very good friend. You know, we were colleagues, and he's a good leader and politician, and I admire and I've admired the kind of leadership he's had before. So only that, you know, the last time we met, he had not now assumed the new look of Tambo Mbeki.
Barry White, I told him last time.
So he looks like Kofi Annan.
Kofi Annan.
But all those are great men.
He calls it rebranding. You know, we've been good friends, so I wanted to welcome him. And then you asked the question, whether you asked whether I was where? In Moscow?
Yeah.
Or Moscow?
Moscow.
No, I was out of the country, Debarl. That's why I missed the last session. I was not in Moscow. I was in a meeting with the World Bank in Bangkok on new city and urban resilience. Because, as you know, we want to develop this country, especially in the rural areas. We want to develop our small towns and cities, like Kisumu, like Kiambu, like Thika, and find out how can we grow this country and especially stop this urban migration as has been happening in Nairobi, and take services to the people and grow the counties themselves. And as the chairperson of the Committee on Roads, Transport and Infrastructure, I had the opportunity to go and borrow and see and learn also from what other great people have done around the world, and we can do it for our country. And I'm happy to be here. So I was not in Russia. I was in another place. So and I believe even those who are in Russia, when they come, they will tell us what they saw. Yes. In Russia. That's what I saw. Now, on this issue,
we were just hoping that you'll come with a report.
The ones who are there, I'm sure, will bring you the report. That's my report from the World Bank meeting, and it's good for the country.
All right, thank you.
Now, on this issue that we are discussing this morning, Debarl, what would come to my mind first is to ask, really, what is so new, seeing the reactions, for example, from the likes of Wetang'ula and others, in comparing with our past. If you look at what Wetang'ula now is complaining about, the in quotes expulsion or remission from NASA, and the current, way they are trying to find their new partners and marriage. If you look at our history in politics, remember, start from the Rainbow Coalition. And this is our history politically. Once an election is over, people have ridden on the vehicle to an election, they either win or lose, then they dump the shell and try to seek a new realignment. And so I don't find anything strange in what Wetang'ula is doing. What actually, if you ask me, he's doing, he's just trying to do a value assessment as to where he is right now and where he wants to go. And in so doing, justify some of the actions that he's taking. I mean, I've said, remember the Rainbow Coalition. Remember PNU in the subsequent election. Remember then, after that, they used ODM. And then from ODM in the elections of 07, now again to NASA. And so the guys have simply exited the bus. They disembarked. And now they're finding new suitors. It's as simple as that. Otherwise, if you listen to the issues, for example, and I say so with a lot of respect, but if you listen to some of the issues raised by Wetang'ula, that the handshake was people shook hands in the absence. If you ask me, I would be asking him. But I said with a lot of respect, what has the handshake denied him? I mean, politically, if the two leaders shook hands, what did he lose? I mean, even if he was present, maybe what would it have added? I mean, we have to be realistic in some of these things, because this window dressing and just shuffling and trying to speak to different issues without really saying what we mean or what we're doing, and then see that our leader betrayed us. There was no doubt, there has never been, that from the word go, the presidential candidate for NASA was Raila Amolo Odinga. So he was the leader. And so he went on to partake of the handshake that time on behalf of the coalition. But it is that false impression that they created there in Uhuru Park, if you remember, Debarl, that they have gotten into the vehicle called NASA, still with their political parties, non-committal necessarily already. And Debarl, if you call it a marriage, even in marriage vows, you say the two have become one. But these guys went into an arrangement then and said, we come here as a whole, ourselves, not as one. We are going to remain Ford Kenya, we are going to remain the way we are, but we are going now to form this group called NASA. But the reason why, indeed, if you ask, they wanted to retain those original positions was at a time of convenience. Mm-hmm. You can be able to bolt out, I mean, if you want. And so, if you ask me finally, I would be telling my good friend and colleague in the House, Senator Wetang'ula, and the leader of Ford Kenya. And remember, the deputy party leader of Ford Kenya is sitting in this panel. Really, I mean, the best thing is for them to dust their boots and get going politically. Find out where do they want to go. They can come to Jubilee and reform and correct themselves and align to our good thoughts and arrangements for building this country. I mean, and we can teach them a few good things about good leadership. Good leadership. And we'll invite them to Jubilee. Yeah, but and build a good country.
Yeah, but you pose a good question also for Boni Khalwale here. The question is, yes, what does Wetang'ula has to lose with the handshake? That is what he is asking.
This issue of handshake, I think it is going to be felt when hard decisions have been made. Kenyans are waiting for you. You, the proponents of handshake. Kenyans are waiting. We want to see what is the baby that will come out of it. Let me give you, for example. Yes. Try and make the mistake of going the route ODM is trying to drive the process, i.e. take the country into a referendum. Kenyans are waiting. Okay, what are the referendum questions? They will discipline you, and because you were not there at that time, Senator Wamatangi and my brother Otiende, you were not there, ask Kembi and I. In 2005, when President Kibaki tried to push a referendum question, you saw what happened to government.
You said you were not where? We were here in this country.
No, you were not in Parliament that time.
Yes,
sorry,
you
were not in Parliament at that time.
Okay.
Kenyans are waiting for you, and it is not going to be a walk in the park. The second thing I want to comment about the handshake is, please, my brother Omollo, when you say that the NASA core principles didn't know about the handshake, and that also the Deputy President Ruto didn't know about the handshake, we don't know what you know, because we innocently have been told by Raila what you're saying. But Ruto has said he knew. So who do we believe? Let me tell you, Waswahili husema akili ni nywele, kila mtu ako na zake. So ukiona mtu amezungumza jinsi vile Deputy President amesema, ako na zake. So we must have reason why we should say that Ruto is lying. It is Raila who is saying the truth. With utmost respect, both are leaders of this country. Let us believe what they have said, but know that the issue of the handshake is not in the name. It is in what will come out of the handshake.
But quickly, Boni,
No.
That was really not what the question was.
What was the
That's
question?
not what I asked.
What did you ask?
Because I didn't ask what, or the issue was not what will come out of the handshake. That's a different topic altogether. If you are discussing how after the handshake, what then does life mean to Kenyans? What is the effect of it? That's a different story. Now,
Yes.
the question that I posed, and that's what Debarl deflected to you, was
That?
as Ford Kenya, as Wetang'ula and you, the deputy party leader, what did you lose because, what did you lose because of the handshake? I mean, supposing you were there when it was being partaken, what would you have gained? I mean, because I just said that so that we can be fair to Kenyans, so that those who believe in Ford Kenya, in your native Kakamega, can be able to say then we are following leaders with a vision. That when they speak, really, they speak because there is content in what they say and there is meaning. But when you lament and complain that we were omitted and left out of the handshake, then what you would be saying that during this handshake there was this deal that was signed or agreed
Right,
upon that we were left out of.
Just a moment. Can we hear from Otiende and then we'll come to Kembi?
You know,
Let's
me
go
say
sequentially.
three things.
Yes.
First, Dr. Khalwale, I do not think that leadership means only being in parliament. You can be a leader even outside parliament. And in 2005, during the referendum, I was the chairman of ICJ, and I was one of those who principally opposed the constitution. As a matter of fact, most of the, I remember even the launch of ODM actually happened around that time, when we went to address, we went to Kisumu, and at that time we were in the happy company of Raila, Uhuru, Ruto, you know, on that side. Balala, and in fact it's Balala who pronounced the birth of Orange. So I was very much involved, so I know what happened. But secondly, I think you contradict yourself with tremendous respect. And you know, Dr. Khalwale is usually a man of courage and a man of wisdom. But when you say that Kenyans are waiting for the outcome, what will come out of the handshake, what is the problem with you waiting with the rest of Kenyans? Because that's what you should do. And in waiting, and if you think that what might come out might be something detrimental to Kenyans, then what you should be saying is before it comes out, let us see how we can input so that what comes out is helpful to Kenyans. If you represent a party that truly has Kenya at heart, you cannot be saying, let us wait for whatever comes out, which will be bad, so that Kenyans can react. Because how does that help us as a country? It doesn't. But thirdly, and more importantly, and I've said this before, I think the definition of proper politique is in what happened after the handshake. The truth of the matter is that the deputy president and the other NASA co-principals did not know about this. And immediately after the handshake, the deputy president himself said that. But shortly thereafter, what he did defines political astuteness. He embraced that whole idea. On the other side, the other NASA principals sought to denounce and grumble about it. Now, that is the difference. Political Newsnet required that even if, whether you knew or not, but to the extent that it is a good thing for this country, you embrace it and see how to work with it. That's where Ford Kenya gets it wrong. Because the question that must be asked is this. So as a country, and you know how hot it was. Those of us who are in the streets every day, we were consuming, you know, sumptuous amounts of tear gas. We were being shot at with live bullets. In Parliament, parliamentary business was not moving, not in the Senate, not in the National Assembly.
Yes.
So what is the alternative to the handshake? You see, those who oppose the handshake owe us something. And that's what somebody like Dr. Boni Khalwale owes us, is to tell us what then, in your view, was the alternative to the handshake.
Good question. Right, let's leave it at that now and hear from Kembi as well. You wanted to say something before I interjected.
Just to recap, you know, I thought the issue that Senator Wamatangi was raising is very important. You know, people cannot just oppose these things for the sake of it. And it is that sulking kind of culture. I was left out, therefore, I must sulk without even wanting to know what the outcome would be. We were there in 2005 for the referendum. And it's true what Boni is saying, we were in Parliament and we did a lot of work for those of us who supported and those that did not. But we did what we had to do then. And maybe one of the reasons that it didn't work out then is because maybe there was not too much consultation. Maybe there was not too much, dealing with the issues. There was no national dialogue immediately before, what is now called public participation. And my view is that this handshake could change this country. It could help build bridges that have been, you know, destroyed over the years. And what I want to see myself is not a moment now for us to say that there shall be or there shall not be a referendum. And that's why I said when I was here last time that I'm very anxiously waiting to see what the report of the 14 people will be on the 9-point agenda. Because what they'll tell us at that moment, and that is why I castigate this thing about campaigning from election to election. Because in my view, the most important outcome will be what they tell us and what it will lead us to. Shall we go to a national dialogue? Shall Khalwale then come to the table? Will he stop Sauki and come to the table and we discuss these things dispassionately? That, for me, is what matters. Because at the end of the day, we are losing time. Khalwale and I are not as young as we were in 2002 when we went to the 9th Parliament. We are much younger people. We've seen 15 years. In those 15 years, what exactly has happened? How has our country benefited in those 15 years? Or have we just been wrangling based on tribalism and nepotism and all those other things? Are we culpable? Did we make a mistake because of not helping to steer when we got that opportunity for those 15 years?
Yes.
So in my view, these are the things that we should be discussing. And my view is this, that we must bite the bullet and deal with these issues dispassionately. Forget about ODM, forget about Jubilee, forget about everything else. Look at ourselves as Kenyans and ask ourselves on a table, where did we go wrong? That is the question we must ask. But sulking is not going to help us. Telling us that I wasn't there, therefore I should have been asked, but I was not asked, therefore I'm not going to the table. For me, we shall waste another 10, 15 years, and by that time, Khalwale and I shall be very old men.